Have you ever felt like someone could see right through you? Like they understood things about you that you never even said out loud? That's what it feels like when you're around an INFJ. They're not magicians, but their intuition, depth, and emotional intelligence allow them to pick up on things that others completely miss. This isn't about guessing. It's about sensing the truth beneath the surface, often before you're even aware of it yourself. In this video, we're breaking down 8 things INFJs can instantly sense about you, and why this ability can feel both comforting and unsettling to the people around them. Stick with me, because by the end, you might realize just how much of yourself is already visible to an INFJ. And if you find yourself nodding along, don't forget to subscribe. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Your true mood behind the mask. They sense sadness, anger, or joy even when you hide it. One of the most striking abilities INFJs have is their knack for sensing emotions that others try to bury. You might smile, laugh, or act perfectly fine on the surface, but an INFJ can feel the subtle shift in your energy that betrays what's really going on. It's not just about reading facial expressions or tone of voice. They pick up on micro expressions, body language, and even the unspoken energy you bring into a room. For them, it's like having an emotional radar that works even when you think you've locked everything away. Imagine sitting across from an INFJ after a long, stressful day. You're telling them everything is fine, but your shoulders are just a little too tense, your eye contact is slightly off, and your laugh doesn't carry the same warmth. Most people would take your words at face value. The INFJ, however, feels the sadness behind your smile or the frustration under your calm tone. To them, these contradictions are like flashing neon signs, impossible to ignore. This is why people often feel seen in a way that's almost unsettling around INFJs. They don't just notice what you say, they feel what you don't say. That can be comforting if you want someone to understand you without judgment, but it can also be uncomfortable if you'd rather keep your emotions hidden. INFJs don't expose this knowledge outright, but they quietly carry it, adjusting how they respond to you. They might soften their tone if they sense you're hurting, or back away if they feel anger simmering beneath your words. For INFJs, sensing hidden moods isn't a choice, it's automatic. Their empathy and intuition tune into subtle emotional frequencies that most people miss. It's part of why others often confide in them without knowing why. Even strangers sometimes open up because the INFJ presence silently communicates, "I know you're not okay, and you don't have to pretend with me." Whether you're being authentic or fake, they instantly pick up on pretenses. INFJs have an uncanny ability to sense when someone is wearing a mask. While most people rely only on words or outward behavior, you naturally tune into the subtle signals others overlook. The slight tension in someone's body language, the forced tone in their laughter, or even the disconnect between what they say and what they truly feel, these inconsistencies jump out at you like flashing warning signs. It's not something you consciously try to do, it's almost automatic, like a radar that never shuts off. What's unsettling for others is that you can't be fooled by surface charm. A person might come across as confident, kind, or agreeable to the rest of the world, but if their intentions don't align with their energy, you pick up on the dissonance. It makes people uncomfortable because even if you don't call them out directly, your silence or distance speaks volumes. Deep down, they sense, you see right through them. And this ability protects you from manipulation, but it also isolates you. Many people can't handle being fully seen, so they either withdraw or try to prove themselves to you. But for you, authenticity is non-negotiable. If someone is genuine, you can relax and connect deeply. If not, you quietly guard your space, knowing it's not your job to fix or expose them. You simply won't waste energy on a mask. Your hidden intentions, even if you don't say them, they feel what you're planning. One of the most unsettling gifts INFJs carry is their ability to sense what lies beneath your words. You may not openly share what you're thinking or what you plan to do, but to an INFJ, your hidden intentions leak out in ways you don't even notice. It might be the slight hesitation before you answer a question, the way your eyes shift when you say, "You're fine," or even the energy you carry into the room. To others, these are invisible. To an INFJ, they're obvious clues that reveal more than you ever intended to share. This is why people often describe INFJs as mind readers. They're not psychic, but their intuition works like a constant undercurrent, pulling together subtle details and emotional cues into a bigger picture. They can often tell when someone is about to make a decision, when a friend is pulling away, or when someone's kindness hides a selfish agenda. And once they sense it, they rarely ignore it, even if they don't confront it directly. For the INFJ, this ability is both a strength and a burden. On one hand, it protects them from betrayal and helps them stay one step ahead of manipulation. On the other hand, it can make relationships complicated. It's difficult for them to enjoy surface-level interactions when they can see the undercurrents of doubt, dishonesty, or hidden motives in the people around them. Sometimes they wish they could just take things at face value like everyone else, but they can't, and that's what sets them apart. This makes INFJs hard to fool and even harder to fully hide from. They may not call you out, but trust this. Once they sense your real intentions, their trust shifts instantly. And when that shift happens, the relationship is never the same again. The energy you bring into a room, your presence speaks louder than your words. Before you even open your mouth, an INFJ has already felt the weight of your presence. To most people, walking into a room is just that, entering a space. But for an INFJ, it's like being hit with a wave of invisible signals. The way you move, the look in your eyes, even how quickly or slowly you breathe, tells them more than you think. They pick up on the energy you radiate, whether it's calm and grounded or tense and hostile. And often, they'll know more about how you're feeling than you do yourself. This is why INFJs sometimes look like they're reading minds in social settings. In reality, they're simply attuned to emotional atmospheres in a way that most people overlook. If you walk into a room angry but try to fake a smile, they'll catch the discord instantly. If you're secretly anxious during a conversation, they'll sense your unease even if you laugh and joke through it. To them, the truth isn't in your words, it's in the energy you can't hide. Because of this, INFJs often feel like emotional sponges, soaking up whatever atmosphere they're in. A calm, supportive environment can recharge them, but a chaotic, negative one can drain them to the point of exhaustion. That's why they're selective about where they spend their time and who they spend it with. They know that energy is contagious, and they refuse to carry other people's toxicity longer than they have to. What makes this even more powerful is how INFJs respond. They won't always confront you directly if your energy feels off, but they'll quietly adjust how much access you get to them. If your presence feels uplifting, they'll welcome you in. If it feels heavy, manipulative, or draining, they'll start building distance before you even realize it. This silent filtering is how they protect their peace while still moving gracefully through a world full of noise. Unspoken pain or struggles, they notice emotional wounds you never voice. You can cover up your feelings with a smile, keep your tone light, and act as if everything is fine, but an INFJ still feels the weight of what you're carrying. They have an almost uncanny ability to sense emotional wounds that you've never spoken out loud. It's not because they pry, but because their intuition catches subtle cracks in your energy and behavior. A slight change in the way you speak, the heaviness in your eyes, or the way your laugh doesn't quite reach your soul. These things stand out to them instantly. This is why people often feel both comforted and unnerved around INFJs. On one hand, it's deeply validating to have someone truly see you without explanation. On the other, it can feel exposing because they notice the pain you've been trying to hide from everyone else, and while you may not be ready to admit it, they already know. What makes INFJs unique is not just that they detect these unspoken struggles, but how they handle them. They don't usually call you out directly. Instead, they offer space, warmth, or support in subtle ways, asking the right question, staying present without judgment, or simply giving you silence when words aren't needed. They can't always fix what you're going through, but they'll sit with you in it, often carrying some of the weight themselves. But this gift also comes with a cost. Because they sense pain so deeply, INFJs often feel burdened by wounds that don't belong to them. They absorb other people's struggles and carry them long after the conversation ends. This is why they need solitude, to sift through what's theirs and what isn't. Still, their ability to recognize pain you never voice is what makes them irreplaceable in relationship. They don't just hear your words, they hear the silence between them. How you truly feel about them, they sense the subtle changes in your attitude. One of the most unsettling things about being close to an INFJ is realizing you can't easily hide how you feel about them. You might think you're being polite, casual, or even distant in a way that no one would notice, but the INFJ does. They have a radar for emotional shifts, and when it comes to how someone feels about them personally, that radar is even sharper. It could be something as small as the way you delay replying to their messages, the lack of warmth in your tone, or the subtle drop in eye contact. These cues may seem insignificant to you, but to an INFJ, they form a pattern. They start piecing together your real attitude long before you've admitted it out loud. Whether it's admiration, resentment, attraction, or indifference, they sense it, often before you fully realized it yourself. This ability comes from years of reading between the lines. INFJs know what it's like to be misunderstood, so they've trained themselves to notice what others miss. If you secretly envy them, they'll feel it in the tension of your words. If you're losing interest in them, they'll notice the absence of the little things you used to do. And if you genuinely value them, they'll sense that too, not through grand gestures, but in the quiet consistency of how you show up. The challenge for INFJs is deciding what to do with this information. Sometimes they stay silent, giving you room to either confirm or deny what they already suspect. Other times, they'll quietly start pulling back, protecting themselves from a shift they know is inevitable. But either way, they rarely confront you directly. Their strength lies in observation, not accusation. This is why many people feel that INFJs suddenly change in relationships. In reality, the INFJ didn't change, they simply responded to what they already knew you were feeling, and by the time you realize it, they've likely already made their decision. Your strengths and weaknesses, they observe patterns others overlook. When you interact with an INFJ, you might think you're just having casual conversations or sharing small details about your life, but what you don't realize is that they're constantly observing, not in a judgmental way, but in a deeply analytical one. While most people only notice what's on the surface, INFJs track patterns in your behavior, your words, and even your inconsistencies. Over time, this allows them to build a surprisingly accurate picture of both your strengths and your weaknesses. For example, if you're naturally confident in public but freeze up when asked personal questions, the INFJ will spot that vulnerability long before anyone else does. If you're skilled at problem solving but struggle with follow-through, they'll notice that too. The beauty and sometimes the intimidation of this gift is that they don't need you to spell anything out. You reveal yourself through your habits, your slips of language, and the tiny cracks in your armor, and the INFJ quietly takes note. The reason they pick up on this more than others is because they're always looking for the why behind human behavior. They don't just hear what you say, they hear what you avoid saying. They don't just see what you do, they see the triggers that cause you to act. Over time, this paints a picture of your deepest patterns, and those patterns often reveal more about you than you'd like to admit. But here's where INFJs differ from manipulators. They rarely use this insight against you. Instead, they often store it as a way to better understand, support, or protect themselves in the relationship. They might know you're insecure in certain areas, but instead of exploiting it, they'll avoid pushing those buttons. Or if you try to hide arrogance under charm, they'll recognize it instantly and quietly adjust their trust levels around you. This ability makes people feel both deeply seen and slightly unsettled around INFJs. On one hand, you may feel like they understand you better than anyone else. On the other, you may sense that you can't hide anything from them, and that can be uncomfortable. The truth is, INFJs are natural pattern seekers. While others see isolated events, they see the bigger picture. And in that picture, your strengths and weaknesses are laid out clearly. And if you betray them, they will use this insight to protect themselves, drawing on what they already know about you to detach in a way that ensures you can't hurt them twice. That's the double edge of their gift. It can heal or it can shield. When you're about to leave or pull away, they can feel the shift before it happens. If you've ever tried to slowly distance yourself from an INFJ, thinking they won't notice until you're long gone, you're underestimating one of their sharpest instincts. INFJs have an uncanny ability to feel the subtle changes in relationships before they're visible to anyone else. They don't need you to announce that you're losing interest. that you're withdrawing, or that you're planning an exit. They can sense it in the silence, in the small changes in tone, in the hesitation you think you've hidden. It's not paranoia, it's pattern recognition combined with emotional intuition. Maybe you text a little less, or the warmth in your voice fades even slightly. Maybe you laugh at fewer of their jokes or stop sharing the little details of your day. To most people, these are just random fluctuations. But to an INFJ, they're signals. They feel the energy shift, almost like a pressure drop before a storm. They don't need proof because the emotional weather is already telling them the truth. This ability comes at a cost. For the INFJ, it often feels like living in a constant state of emotional vigilance. They rarely get blindsided by abandonment because they see it coming, but that foresight can be exhausting. Imagine always feeling the end of things before they actually happen. Relationships, friendships, even jobs. While others are still comfortable, the INFJ is already bracing for the impact they know is coming. What makes this even more complicated is that INFJs don't usually confront you about it right away. They don't shout, "I know you're pulling away." Instead, they retreat into quiet observation, watching how far you'll go before admitting what they already sense. And in many cases, by the time you're ready to have the talk, they've already detached emotionally. You're delivering news they've been living with for weeks or months. This creates the impression that INFJs leave suddenly or coldly, but in truth, their process of letting go starts the moment they feel you slipping. They don't wait for the breakup conversation, the betrayal, or the confession. They begin to close their heart as soon as the energy tells them you're not fully there anymore. It's a silent self-defense mechanism, protecting their deepest core before the final blow lands. And here's the real power of this ability. It prevents them from being strung along. Many people stay in toxic or fading relationships longer than they should because they refuse to see the signs. INFJs, however, don't need the obvious evidence. They feel the truth early, and once they accept it, they prepare their exit in silence. That's why when the official ending happens, they often seem strangely calm, almost as if they've already said their goodbyes. This is both their curse and their shield. They know when you're leaving before you do. And while that knowledge can be painful, it gives them a quiet strength, the ability to let go with clarity instead of clinging to false hope. At the end of the day, these hidden strengths are why people often say being close to an INFJ feels both comforting and unsettling. You can't hide much because they'll sense it long before you say a word. That intuition is their gift and their shield. If you've ever been around an INFJ, you know how deeply they notice things others completely miss. If this video made you feel seen or gave you a new perspective, take a moment to subscribe and stick around. We've got much more about the psychology of INFJs coming your way. And now, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these 8 INFJ abilities do you think is the most powerful and the hardest for others to handle?